Okay, so I'll tell you where I've been for the past 2 months that I haven't uploaded anything. And there's something that I haven't been willing to admit to myself, to other people, uh, to friends, to parents, to my girlfriend, to clients, everyone basically, because I couldn't admit it to myself. I'll tell you what that is and how I was forced to admit it. And what I learned from that. So that's going to be what we're getting into in this video. So let's talk about what happened before. So on the 2nd of January 2024, I decided to make a very, very serious attempt at quitting all consumption of nicotine, something I have a persistent addiction to. I was already not smoking, but I was still using nicotine pouches, and I also couldn't keep that under control, so I decided to quit that, and I quit it cold turkey. I went from a dose that is equal to like multiple packs of cigarettes a day to nothing in the midst of winter, which was probably not the smartest idea for someone who tends to suffer from pretty heavy bouts of depression in winter. But again, wasn't completely being honest with myself. So I just went for it, and I don't regret it. But what happened was I had a weekend where I did not brush my teeth. I couldn't make myself do that in the evenings. I didn't have the energy to do that. I barely did anything productive. I just spent basically the entire weekend watching Netflix. I binged 2 entire shows. I think it was Marco Polo and another one that I can't quite remember, but all I could do was just huddle up under blankets and either watch Netflix or sleep. And I had a responsibility to feed my aunt's cats, and that was like the only responsibility that I could handle that weekend. And that didn't seem to be improving, and I started to worry a lot, just because I felt so far away from my normal self. And so unable to make myself do anything, that I started to worry that my employment was going to be in danger because it just wasn't being productive. It's such a weird experience to completely lose yourself and all your abilities in the span of a couple of days. But that's what happened as a response to not using nicotine anymore. And I believe it's not just the withdrawals. I think nicotine was keeping my depression in check, and I did not want to admit that I had depression, or that seasonal depression is not a real depression. But again, I got slapped in the face by life, and over the span of a weekend, I just lost my sense of who I was, what I wanted out of life, what my responsibilities were. I had calls with my girlfriend, and I said to her, I don't even feel like I know who we are, who I am to you. I don't feel my normal feelings of the relationship. I don't feel my own identity. I'm just, everything is so strange to me. I'm completely tuned out basically, and out of touch with who I used to be. And I'm swimming in this sort of underwater ocean of blackness. Yeah, darkness, and it's just, it feels like such an abrupt shift that I just didn't know what was happening. It was not gradual. It was very, very sudden that I just lost myself completely. Yeah, so one of the things that I wasn't willing to admit over the past 31 years of my life is that I struggle with discipline, and that it is a problem. So I have sometimes said that discipline is not my forte, or that I should be more disciplined, or that I desperately want to be more disciplined. Or sometimes I've even made a video about how not being so disciplined is a good thing, but in the end that was a lie. Overall, it's not a good thing. There are some things that I have serendipitously learned and been able to explore, sort of like trying to circumvent the need for discipline, but ultimately you do need it. And what prevented me from having it is that I have mental health issues. And that I have had mental health issues since I was a teenager and possibly even before. And because it's seasonal, it's so hard to admit to myself when I'm not struggling with it. So it comes on between October and January, and then it sort of goes away between March and May. And then I have like a really good summer. And that summer is so good that I'm just able to compartmentalize and sort of block it out that I was even struggling. And I just feel like, well, this is the new me. I'm on track now. Everything is great. I feel good. I'm building myself up again. I'm working out. I'm doing social things, whatever. Like life seems to be good. And then all of a sudden, living that sort of lie where I sort of pretend every time I tell myself, well, it just can be this way all year long. And then winter comes along and boom, I'm just completely knocked off my feet. And sometimes I can kind of feel it coming, sometimes I don't feel it coming. Sometimes I just start to become slightly more negative and misinterpreting things that my friends say to me as like super negative. And I still sometimes don't know what's happening, but then I suddenly noticed I can't feel happiness anymore, and life feels like I have to really swim really hard to be able to smile every second, every waking second, or else I'm going to be sucked under into a pit of blackness where I can only cry or be numb. And that's just what every second then feels like. It feels like that exercise you do when you're like not allowed to use your arms and learning how to swim. Like people make you do that when you learn how to swim and you're not allowed to use your arms and you still have to stay above water. Like that's what that feels like. But just to be able to interpret things in a normally positive or balanced way, have normal conversations where not everything spins out of control into this super negative, tailspin. So as an example of my thought patterns during this period in January, I wrote in my journal that I seriously questioned whether I was even capable of being happy and whether that is fair to my partner. So, shouldn't she just leave me, or shouldn't I just leave her or something because I'm just not capable of being happy? So I feel like I'm just kind of scamming her into thinking that I can be a happy person while that's actually never been the case consistently. So is that fair to her? Shouldn't I just leave her and not inflict myself on any person, through a relationship, basically? So that's overly dark, and I recognize that, but still, like, those thoughts are happening. I had there were so many dark thoughts, man. This is just very small sample, right? I had a short incident with some parasites on my skin that I had to get off with some special substance. I won't get into it, but because I had a parasite incident, I just explained it parasites are nature's way of starting to eat you already because you might as well be dead. So just because I had a little infestation, I took that as a sign of basically just you should die. Like nature is already starting to tell you that your life should be ending now. Now I am not suicidal, have never really been suicidal. But yeah, those thoughts are really dark, and those also struck me as worrisome. So what I've been having to admit is that I have a chronic mental health condition. And that looks like ADHD, it looks like depression, and it also looks like addiction. And somehow I always wanted to push that, minimize that. Like, yeah, well, I'm neurotic and, have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but it's not enough to really call it anything. But I was wrong there. So basically what my therapist helped me reframe was that I'm not just a little bit depressed in like this cute way in winter for a few months and then it's all good. I'm just always depressed. But because of the seasonal pattern, it looks different in summer. So in summer and spring, I don't have these dark thoughts usually, and I have a lot more energy to do things, so I kind of can get by, but I still have loads of struggles getting things done and with discipline because everything feels super difficult and super heavy, like normal day-to-day things like brushing my teeth, taking a shower, things that come easy to most people. They can just feel like such a heavy undertaking. Answering emails, such a heavy undertaking. It's like an impossible task to keep up with my emails, and I don't even get that many. I get like a couple a day or something, and just to keep that up is like this impossible heavy, and that's always the case, also in summer, but I'm just more able to sort of compartmentalize that in summer because the sun gives me more energy. But still, lots of food binges as well, sugar binges, and being unable to activate myself to do like normal things like showering, brushing my teeth. Yeah, that's signs of depression. So even though I might be thinking more positively, still those are signs of depression. And then I get different problems in summer and spring. Then I get more this restlessness that again looks more like ADHD, where it's just really, really hard to sit still at a desk and do stuff for more than 20 minutes, and I just get these almost uncontrollable impulses to run away, go take a walk, go do this, go do that, distract myself. So yeah, then it starts to look more like ADHD, and then in winter it just boom, it just takes away all the serotonin, it feels like, and then it's just this dark black ocean that swallows me. And every time I'm like, I don't know what happened, I didn't predict this at all. So I have to admit, this is always a thing, it's a serious thing. And I have to take it seriously. So, yeah. And I have two ways that I can cope with that somewhat, and that is to smoke or to use nicotine in some way. I'm not sure whether it's the nicotine only or that also that tobacco is an MAO inhibitor, and an MAO inhibitor is somewhat antidepressant. But yeah, the impulse is to use something like some form of tobacco has been so persistent that it's clear that is self-medication. And one of the insights that I had is that, look, I feel so like terrible and constantly like I'm sinking back into this sludge, and I deserve to feel okay. So I forgave myself for being addicted to nicotine or tobacco because it makes me feel okay temporarily, and I do deserve to feel okay sometimes. It's good to feel okay, and it's normal to want that. And if tobacco was the way for me to have that, then it's rational to keep using it. So yeah, that self-acceptance there was also an insight that I had. It's like, yeah, I just needed something. I can quit cold turkey, and I quit caffeine and nicotine cold turkey, but then something just is missing and it doesn't work sustainably. So yeah. And running is the other way that I can cope with it. It's just working out a lot, and especially running, I can work off the restless energy. I can sort of let these dark thoughts come up and sort of release them while I'm like agonizing and sweaty, and then after after the getting sweaty and running, the dark thoughts sort of settle down, because then I get this endorphin rush, and I feel sort of okay. And so that's the other thing that I've tried to do. I'll make another video about how I'm implementing coping strategies now. Coping strategies was a dirty word to me before, but now I really, really need them. Yeah, so let's get into what I've learned. Because this has sort of been a real slap in the face from life, and I believe it's also has its benefits, because I was very arrogant in thinking that everything can be solved with shadow work and self-therapy, and if you feel bad, then all you have to do is, you know, do an exercise to just fully feel into it, and that way you can let it go and it will just go away like that. And I had that belief, and then I got hit in the face with this sort of blackness, and I realized there is no way that I'm gonna make myself do an exercise now, because there is no way that I'm gonna make myself brush my teeth now. How am I going to do any sort of form of journaling, asking myself difficult questions, prompting, listening to any exercise? How? Just to conceptualize how to even do that. I was so far gone that I had the thought of, well, if this happens to me in winter, I should just never be in the Netherlands in winter. I should just always go to a warm country. I should look up which countries are affordable to go to in winter. And then I couldn't do that. And it's as simple as Googling, you know, putting some things in Google, putting on a travel planning website, flights.google.com, like just these thoughts, I didn't have them anymore. So I was just like blankly staring at my laptop. Can't do this. Yeah, and that's scary, because then you can't do anything to get yourself out of that hole, basically. Yeah, because just execution of things just completely shot, and focus is completely shot. And then I had this thought of, well, you know, I'm the shadow work guy. I'm teaching other people how to work with their feelings. Shouldn't I use this as an opportunity to do my own exercises, and sort of refine them, practice them again, see if I can use this as an opportunity to, yeah, maybe improve it, or at least, you know, practice what I preach, basically. And I have practiced what I preached in the past, but here I felt I just cannot. If I, you know, at 2 or 3 p.m. find the courage to take a shower, that's an accomplishment. So I'm not gonna do any like self-therapy things that require any willpower, because I don't have the strength. So you can't shadow work and self-therapy your way out of every hole. Sometimes the hole can be so deep that all you can do is survive and cope, and then that's what you need to do. And I'll make another video about how I'm doing that, because I am starting to do a little better now. It's been a few weeks. But yeah, definitely had that belief, and I was arrogant that, you know, you can just feel your way through a depression and then it will go away. And that's not always the case. If it's, yeah, well. Another thing I learned is that my YouTube behavior completely changed during those weeks. I did not want to watch any sort of self-help tips. I didn't want to watch any podcasts with, like, you know, smart psychology people or spiritual people about, or anyone really giving me tips about how I could fix myself, or about how I could feel more positive, how I could improve this, improve that. I did not want to know about improving anything, because I knew whatever they're gonna tell me, I'm not gonna have the strength to execute it right now. So all those videos that I would normally maybe be tempted to click, like 5 tips to do this, or how to organize that, or how to, yeah, whatever. I think I'm gonna stop making those things of, like, you know, 7 tips to improve this. I'm not sure how much I've been doing that. I don't think I have, but I've viscerally felt how completely unhelpful that feels when you're not in a space where you can do anything besides the mere survival. Yeah, and what I wanted to watch was experiences, just people who are also going through some sort of mental health crisis, or suffering with some sort of mental health condition and what that's like. So I was listening to a lot of people explaining what it's like to have borderline personality disorder, people explaining what it's like to have schizophrenia or have depression. Yeah, and just experiences of other people who also struggle and don't have it perfectly figured out yet was a lot more beneficial and pleasant. And I only wanted to just listen to that, and I didn't want to have anything to do with tips on how to improve. So that will definitely inform the way I make content in the future. Yeah, and that's it. So now I knew always that even if I had to take a break from YouTube, and even if I don't know exactly what kind of videos I want to make now, I knew didn't want to stop. So today I found the strength back to make something. So here is something, and I'll see you the next one about something, and might be about how I'm coping with depression or what it's like, or something else. We'll see. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. See you next time.